Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. My name is Dr. Maury Mosovitz, and I am your host and co-hosted by my favorite, all-time best, wonderful co-host, Jen Albanese. Welcome, Jen.
Hello. Sorry, I almost made you laugh there.
I know, I almost hit the giggles already.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. How's everybody doing?
Well, this is because we started a conversation before we stared recording, and now it's making me think about it. So it's that self-fulfilling prophecy.
I know. I feel like we're kind of been going back and listening to old episodes and just realizing how cringeworthy we can be sometimes.
God,
I hope everybody that listens isn't like, oh, these people are so terrible.
I think in some ways we got better the farther we recorded. So I was hoping,
think so too.
Even during the episodes, like the start of an episode was like, oh, what am I doing? And then by the end, it's like, oh, that's pretty good. But I wish that it kind of catched up to it. So and then some of the things I say, I'm like stumbling over myself. I'm like, oh God.
No, but I think we got more comfortable, when we would do these opening sequences or in between tips, we would get more comfortable playing off of each other. But in the beginning we were like,
the first episode, the super excited. I'm like, just shut up. Just stop saying it. I'm in my car, stop. I don't want to listen to this anymore. And you're like, no, it's great. I'm like, no, it's not great.
Well, it's and I kind of catch myself sometimes, after a tip, I'll be like, wow, that's so good. I feel like I say that every single time. Now, granted, all the tips are great, but I'm like, yeah, that's so good. So good. If I say so good one more time, it needs to be out of my vocabulary to say these things.
I want to have a bell for certain things and be like, nope, you can't say that.
I know. It was funny. I was listening to one podcast where they talked about they swear more than they should. So every time that they swear, they get the and I'm like, oh, we should do that for every time we say, this is so exciting. This is awesome.
I think we're just so super positive. All of our things that we repeat over and over again, it's super positivity. I'm like, where did this come from? Because in my normal life, I am not that positive.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're an Eeyore either, but we're more middle of the road.
Yeah. Well, I'm way little. The road is higher up for you than me. My road is lower. Let's be honest.
I try to bring the road higher when I come to see you.
You're
during
very
the day.
positive. Not that I'm a negative person, but you'll walk in the morning full of energy, and I'll be like, I need 3 more cups of coffee, and I don't even drink coffee when I'm around you.
I was gonna say, you don't even drink coffee.
I know.
I'll walk into your office and I'll be like, how's your day going? And you're like, that's fine. But see, we like the podcast so much. It's a nice outlet.
Yeah, we're super excited about the podcast.
Super excited. I'm so honored. This is awesome.
This is wonderful.
We're just going to say every word that we want to get out of our mouths.
And I think we are. We're gearing up. We have good guests and a lot of people that we know. So we really do want to see them. That's kind of the thing that people don't, I guess, understand as much is that these are people that are friends of ours. We've had relationships with, and it's kind of exciting to know we're going to talk to them.
We haven't really seen them or caught up with them in a while. So it is nice for us. That's kind of been the fun part of it. But it's a fun thing that we like to do. So maybe that's why we're so positive.
Or we're texting people back for what about this person? We haven't talked to them in a while.
I know. When somebody says they could do it, we're like, yes, we got this person for the podcast. So anybody out there that wants to be a guest, reach out.
Yes, especially if for some reason we forgot you, which we apologize for right now. So if we have a relationship with you and we didn't reach out yet, we apologize. And if you're at the institution that we currently work, we save you guys for very special occasions where we're trying to fill in. So don't feel bad that we have not asked you at this moment.
Yes, that's very important. We love you very much, but
yes,
you're always going to be there. So.
Yeah, we know you're there.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll try to contain ourselves a little more,
I guess.
But
I'm still afraid I'm going to cringe. That's why I had to, can you imagine if I did this by myself? It would be a total train wreck. There would be nothing good going on here.
But it would be what would you be talking to yourself? It'd be very odd.
I would just be saying super excited to a camera all the time. It would be terrible.
People would be like, what's up with that guy?
What's going on with that guy?
Well, we're super excited for this episode.
Today's guest is actually great. Background in NIL and professor, but also marketing, just has run the gamut, and a personal mentor to you, which is also really cool. So
yeah, he is. He's one of my first mentors in the industry. So really super excited to have him, and it's going to be an awesome conversation.
And he'll be back when we get back from these messages. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Maury, let's do an intro of our guest.
Oh, this is a great one, a great long bio, so everyone hold on for this. We're excited to introduce a guest whose career in sports industry spans over 2 decades. He began his journey with a bachelor's degree in sports management from Ithaca College, where he not only excelled academically, but also shined as a captain of the Bombardiers baseball team. In 1999, he took part in the prestigious NCAA Leadership Conference, marking the start of an impressive career. He went on to earn his master's degree in sports administration from Florida State University, where he served as a graduate assistant in the Seminoles ticket office and later worked as a marketing assistant. Professionally, he spent a decade with IMG College, managing a substantial client base valued at over $1.1 million annually. He then transitioned to SIDEARM Sports as vice president of sales, where he negotiated significant agreements with institutions like the University of Texas and the Heisman Organization. Before joining Falk College sports management faculty full-time in 2018, he was an adjunct professor for 4 years. His extensive experience also include roles as vice president of sales and business development at 805 Stats and Infinity Sports and Entertainment. In recent years, he has become a leading authority on name, image, and likeness, a field that is reshaping the landscape of college sports. With his deep experience in both traditional sports management and the innovative NLI space, our guest brings a wealth of knowledge and insight. We're thrilled to welcome Dave Meluni to the podcast. Thanks, Dave, for being here.
Well, I appreciate that. I think, Maury, that the intro is just that I'm old now. So
oh, Dave, come
Stop
on.
it.
comes to
No.
the territory. But
Listen, I was going to add the reason I have a job is Dave Meluni. So
Yeah.
I owe it all to Dave. So this is very
yeah,
special for me.
I should have had in there Jen's boss when she was interning.
Yes,
that is true. But Jen paved her way, so she did an
Oh, well.
awesome job. She's done a great job for Syracuse athletics.
Thank you. Well,
have you, Maury,
all because
Thank
of
you.
you, Dave. So, but this is great. Excited to have you here, Dave.
Well,
This is
Dave,
great.
I mean, you've done so many things. I think the one thing right now is NLI clearly has become just a topic that you've just become the master at. And how'd you decide to focus on that and do some research and kind of concentrate some of your, teaching on that?
Yeah, and I'll be honest. You'd mentioned it, but I played Division III baseball. Had a chance to play in the Wood and Bat League. Major League Baseball currently funds about a dozen leagues in the country. And that was back in 1999 when I had hair at that point. But along those lines, I knew I wanted to be part of college athletics and working with athletes or students in some capacity, and then had an awesome opportunity. I can't thank Ben Sutton enough from ISP Sports, and was working for them. And then there was obviously acquisitions around those times. But from the name, image, and likeness side of things, it was really started because of the corporate sponsorship. When I started to do that here at Syracuse, and then going over to SIDEARM Sport to be their VP for Jeff Rubin, and started to work with athletic directors on the digital side, and then talking about creating content, I started to have a little bit of this crystal ball that I thought this was coming, and then had a great opportunity. Michael Veely, who's just since retired, he's a legend here at Syracuse, offered me an opportunity to come teach as an adjunct, and then I just fell in love with it. And then when the Ed O'Bannon case in 2015, where we now have this college football game kind of comes full circle,
right?
I started to say to the administration here, like, hey, we got to keep an eye on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then really in 2021 is where I went to the administration, and anything in higher academics has to go for us to New York State, but you can go ahead and have a trial course. And I just called it name, image, likeness, which I actually don't even like that word. I like athlete marketability.
Yeah.
So I wrote the course, and Buddy Boeheim and Meg Carney were in the first course, and they did some NIL deals, and we got some publicity, and proud that it was literally the first course in the country offered at any school. within is its own course, not part of like a law program.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. I love
That's
working with
awesome.
student athletes. You know, it's getting a narrative in the media of pay for play. If anybody has watched the show Friday Night Lights, I call it the Buddy Garrity, right? The envelope. That's
Yeah.
what we're hearing, but that's not what it is.
Right.
It's building your brand, it's building your social media following, it's helping causes. It could be anything from pediatric cancer to something along your line, your family when it comes to NIL, and it's athlete marketability and your right to publicity. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's great, and I know that everyone I've heard of taking your classes has seen so much about it, and just some of the things that you've written, and you're definitely becoming a figurehead. So I've appreciated hearing from the things that you're doing, and I know the university appreciates all the support too. So it's just great. But want to get back to it? Why don't we ask you for your first tip?
Sure. So I'm going to go a little bit. There's a lot of different tips, but one of the big tips that I always share with my students, or even my own two boys, and one's going to be a freshman at Albright College and play baseball, and so now there's a lot of tips of getting jobs and working in athletics.
Yeah.
But I would think like the first thing I'll give you an example from a tip is I had a chance, you'd mentioned it, to go to Florida State. So I went from Ithaca College, 5,500 students, to Tallahassee in the Panhandle, and it was like a whole shell shock to me from the standpoint of the weather's much nicer, the campus is huge. We're working with Power Five, football at that time. The 2 years I was there, 1 year we lost in the national title. So one of the biggest tips that I would give is it kind of goes back to what my dad would always tell me when I played baseball is to learn every position, right? So what I did when I got to Florida State is I was a graduate assistant in the ticket office, had no idea what that meant. It paid for my master's degree. And literally week one, I walked down the hallway, looked at all these different titles. And to this day, Kay Scott, was our director of marketing. I knocked on the door, introduced myself, and said, "What can I do?" Right? And I remember her saying to me, "Well, you're working in the ticket office, but if you would like to shadow at a game, you can shadow me."
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what started to happen there is I worked in tickets, I worked will call. Well, then we got to basketball season. And she knew that I had done my capstone at Syracuse, and obviously at the time and even now, Syracuse basketball plays in the Dome. Florida State played in the Civic Center, much smaller. So I shadowed her. I shadowed
Yeah.
her one game, and I was like, "Okay, this is all the things that we did at Syracuse on a different scale." And I loved from the standpoint of shadowing, meaning that all I did was sat back. I didn't really ask. I didn't ask any questions. I watched and I observed. And I think administrators are so busy. You guys are both administrators. And I work with, obviously, with Tommy Powell and John Wildhack on our NIL stuff, and Tori, and everybody's torn in every different direction. But to have somebody just follow them around, like, people will do that, right? Because I can't necessarily have you here in a meeting or this, that, or the other, but that will turn into that. So I would say the first thing, my tip is just ask. Ask, like, "Hey, if I'm in an athletic department or if I'm a student athlete, can I shadow you, Maury, when you guys go do setup? Or Jen, can I shadow you on the quad or in the booth when you're running through Learfield scripts or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Can I just sit there and just be quiet?"
Yep.
And not enough students or prospective employees will do that.
Yeah, if you don't ask, you won't know. So you got to put yourself out there, or you can't get those opportunities.
And
Yeah.
I love what you said about how learning all the positions, because we've talked about that with a lot of different guests. Like, seeing what everybody does can help you be a better leader as you grow in your career, because you understand what everybody's role is, and you've had a little bit experience in all the different areas can help you. Because then you won't feel like, oh, I don't know that, so I can't manage that. Like, if you understand it, you can manage it better. So I love that, being able to see, and shadowing is such an easy opportunity for any student. It doesn't cost anything. And you make those connections too. On top of you learning, you've met those people that can help you now move forward. So that's a good one. I like it.
Awesome. Okay, Dave, number 2.
Okay, so number 2 goes a little bit in line, and Jen just kind of mentioned it, but one of the greatest lessons I ever got was when I went to Ithaca and I played baseball there, and my dad had reluctantly forgot to tell me that I had to go work in a dining hall, and that about lasted a week. So I said to myself,
I can't see you in a dining hall, Dave.
No,
I
that
can't
wasn't
see
gonna
that.
work, right?
I can't see it.
What is it? The hairnet and all that. So I literally walked over. The football team had a locker room, split by a trainer's room, split by a equipment room, and split by the baseball locker room. And I walked in, and there was this guy there. And I literally just said to him, here's who I am. I'm a freshman. Introduced myself. And to this day, he's one of probably the greatest guys. He is. His name's John Wallace. He was the equipment manager. And I said, John, listen, I'm working over, cleaning dishes or whatever I was doing. I go, this ain't gonna last. And he's like, nobody comes over here and asks to work in the equipment room.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I want to. And I was lucky because there was a senior. There were two seniors. And he said, you know what? I don't really necessarily have the budget, but now I'm starting to think about it. When the 2 seniors leave, nobody's going to be able to do this moving forward. I learned everything, right? So I learned chain crew during football games. I learned how to do laundry. And from that standpoint, when I started to build my career, and Jen will remember some of this stuff, well, we also were responsible for all the corporate sponsorship and the Toyota Fun Zone on the quad during football, which it currently still is.
Yeah.
And I was responsible for getting jumpy houses.
Oh, yes.
And I'll never forget the day that there was a jumpy house, and I had some interns that were there, and all of a sudden I'm looking across the quad, or my phone rings or whatever it might be, and I see the jumpy house coming down, and I literally dove into the jumpy house.
Yep.
And it was because a fan had just happened to walk by and tripped on the extension cord, didn't know what was going on. And so my moral to that story is, it goes back to what my dad said. Like, if you learn how to play second base, and you learn how to catch, and you learn how to play right field, and you can pitch, maybe you don't throw hard enough, at some point they got to put you in the game, right? Because somebody's going to get hurt, or something's going to happen, or a pitcher, we're going to go extra innings. So you have to learn everything. And I can tell you lessons from that locker room, or really the lessons of working on the quad, even though I was full-time, really was teaching me customer service and how to deal with people. And you guys got to remember, Florida State, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Here at Syracuse, it's not a disrespect thing, but if you say that to someone, they would think you might be being wise to them.
Right, or
and
sarcastic.
Don't say that down in Carolinas or Florida State or Georgia or wherever, man, you may be rude. So you have to adjust to those different areas too. So really it's learning to do everything. But I'm talking about, Maury, you work in the facility side, is how's that tractor run? Like, like what do we got to do here? Or signage. And with Pete Sala, like Adam at Budget 1 Hour Sign, throwing all these people's names, but like learning what a sticker looks like, how it's going to look on TV. Because we have no idea how it's going to look on TV. And I don't want to do it twice. Now we're so lucky to have digital boards that we can click a button. But back then,
nope.
Yes, you were rotating if you didn't look right.
Rotating. Oh my God, I remember that.
You put it up there, that's what you got.
It's that persistence too, Dave. Like everything that you're talking about is like that persistence of like, you weren't going to take no for an answer in that equipment room. You weren't going to take no for an answer, to play. And that too, I think students forget sometimes, is that persistence. Like if you don't get an answer, a lot of kids are like, oh, I just didn't get anything out of this. Like follow up, continue that connection, and be persistent. So,
and then it shows who you are, because once you're persistent and you actually get those opportunities, the fact that you capitalize on them and work hard, like that's the the golden goose of all these positions that we have. We always are looking for those people that want to dive in, want to, work hard, because it's not necessarily the, what everyone assumes is like an easy job. They're hard, difficult things. And you want people in the trenches with you that are going to put in the work and really want to be there. So no, that's the great tip.
Yeah, absolutely. And transitioning, this goes perfect into number 3. So
perfect.
Easy for us.
You have to live on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is you have to live on LinkedIn by looking at the number of folks that I'm connected with, right? And from there, that are key touch points, okay? And what I mean by that is, do not, this is just my opinion, everybody's a little bit different. I do not connect with anyone and put in a message. I try to connect with them first, to then have a reason to connect. And Jen, you just mentioned the persistence.
Right.
Too many students or too many, even experienced folks in the industry trying to get jobs or connecting with folks, is they will put a message.
Yeah.
Well, how do I know, Jen, if you read the message, right? I might say on mobile that you were there, but now I'm like, what do I write back? Or if I connect with you, Jen, then I'm looking for something, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking that Jen went to Lemoyne, or Jen did this, or there's an Ithaca College connection, or, hey, I know this person likes golf, or I know she played softball, or I know that she just left to go to Towson to be the director. Like I have a student right now, she's working at Towson. And so my point is, live on LinkedIn. Well, I'm not saying you're stalking, so I'm not. That's not what I'm saying.
We're not supporting stalking.
We're not promoting stalking here.
No.
But my point is, if you're connected with Jen or Maury, and all of a sudden there becomes the first, second, and third tier connections, maybe this Dave Meluni guy, I some way, shape, or form have to be connected with, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different stories that I can tell, but as I continue to feel old, like within the last couple months, I have had students reach out to me and then ask me about this person that they had done their research.
Yeah.
In the last 2 months, there's been a student that has interviewed for a job, and 3 of the people, the last 3 in a row, all interned for me. Some when they were Syracuse students, and multiple when they were Ithaca students.
Right.
Because now they're getting close to 40. I'm over 40. But my point is, you got to live on LinkedIn. Stay away from the direct message right away till they connect, and then introduce yourself and give them a reason to make that connection.
Right. And there's that's like a fine line between persistence and like annoying, where you're like, okay, like it's too much. Like you want to be persistent, but not over the top.
That's right.
So,
and I will also say, make sure that your quality of your LinkedIn is strong, that you have good pictures up there, that you're like have your information correct. It's, as clear as you would put on your resume, that should be your LinkedIn. Cause there's a lot of people that like might, especially young people, that just look at it and like, oh, I'm going to throw it up like my social media account. And
or like
I think,
my Facebook. It's
and
not
I
Facebook.
think Dave, you're great. You really look at it and it's clear. It puts the message out. It has all your information really clearly on there. And so, what a great tip and a resource that I think a lot of people don't always utilize as much as they could.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, and number 4 is a little bit different, but start to learn how to write, folks. Right?
Yes.
Note cards.
Yeah.
Personalized business cards.
Yes.
I say to Margie, like, I'll take 100 of these.
Yeah.
And
she's like, wait, what?
Just a quick thank you. And utilizing your brand that you work for, and now I'm talking NIL, but like I do have a brand, right?
Right.
And at some point, like my career ends at Syracuse. That could be in retirement. That could be going to another school. So everything I talk about, that my brand is at Dave Meluni. It's not, and I've been here a long time. So it's not at Dave Meluni Orange or not at Q's. Like that's not a knock at Syracuse. It's just, you got to build your brand. but then you leverage, and Jen, you mentioned, in light of what I'm wearing, like,
Yeah.
very proud of the fact that this is Syracuse and our sport management program, and we're now the School of Sport, and the support we get from David Falk, but like, no cards. And I had mentioned, I have an 18-year-old that's going to play Division III baseball, and we had a great opportunity to start making connections. Not sure if he's going to be in sports or entrepreneurship or whatever it is. And my wife did a really good job of buying him thank you cards with baseballs on them. Because if you remember,
on brand, I love it.
I met this kid, and he's going to write, hey, I played baseball at Albright, or I played baseball. That's the one little thing. So he's got these, note cards and thank you cards that are baseball themed. And as simple as that is, in this day and age, it cost us $9.99.
Right.
And you're going to remember Landon. You're going to remember Jen if she writes this note. How do you differentiate yourself? And it's really going back to what Ben Sutton used to always preach is we would do this one day a week. We would write for half an hour and read and do all these things that I take with me today is, the brand of yourself, but leveraging your brand and just writing a quick note to whoever it may be.
Yeah.
It goes such a long way. And I think people don't realize that.
Yep.
Even like when I get something in the mail, like our mailboxes at work are very rarely full of anything. But if I get anymore, but if I
used
get
to be
something,
full back in the day.
If I get something now, like I put that on my desk. Like it's literally like up on my desk because that is has such an impact on me because it's so uncommon. And like you said, differentiate yourself. That's so good.
My second left-hand drawer is where all my note cards are. I'm thinking about pulling it down in my office. That's where I have them, and people appreciate it. It definitely is something people appreciate.
And to elaborate a little bit on that, I know folks are going to say like, okay, and some of this, and I tell my students right all the time, I'm like, guys, you got to understand. I have a 15-year-old, I have an 18-year-old, I have a 31-year-old niece. Like, I get it, man. I know what the trends are.
Right.
But to supplement that, also pay attention to what's going on, right? So if you have a friend or someone that works at FIU, I'd be sending the press release of Pitbull being the new sponsor of their stadium and saying, hey, Jen, just thinking about you. This is really cool, right? You're like, what? Oh, they're paying attention.
They're paying
What's
attention.
going on in my world. So that's how this stuff works, right? It's literally how I ended up at Syracuse from a gentleman by the name of Scott Malaga, who was at Cornell, and I worked there, when we weren't playing baseball, which would have been the winter, and then it just all connects, right? I mean, that's essentially, so it doesn't always have to be the note card, but if you see news and that news is somehow tied to a school of somebody or someone, send them a note.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great tip.
It goes such a long way. All right, last one.
This is yours.
This is my big one. So, Dave, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew at the start?
I wish that I knew from strictly the NCAA side of things that there's over 1,100 schools and Division I, Division II, Division III. From an administrative standpoint, there is a ton of overlap, right? So very, I wouldn't say very good friend, but a colleague who went to Ithaca with me that we sat in the classroom, and then his father was a Division III AD. Now he's a Division I AD. I wish I would have understood that it didn't matter. Which I was lucky because I'm a D3 guy and because I played and that's the level that I could play at that's the level that I could play at that time, right? So my point is there are so many different folks. Everyone knows everyone. So if you take over 11, I'm not talking NAI or JUCO because that's a whole nother world, but I'm just saying there's over 1,100 NCAA division or NCAA institutions from Division I, Division II, and Division III, right? And if you go to any of those, you can go to Alabama, you can come to Syracuse. Pete Moore, who works at Syracuse, was my sports information director when I played baseball.
At Ithaca.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I literally just had an opportunity with my son to go down to Wake Forest. He was playing in the PBR Super Sophomore games, and we went through another connection on a little tour of Duke's campus. I am not making this up. I'm on Duke's campus. There are some people there, but not many. I literally am walking by the football stadium, and I turn to my left. I go, Chris, the head of marketing at Duke, is an Ithaca, former colleague of mine, a peer of mine in the classroom. I'm on Duke's campus. I'm in Syracuse.
Right.
I randomly see him. He's a D3 guy. So I guess I wish I would have known that. And I was lucky because I did go to Florida State because I was trying to get into that Division I world.
Right.
But that's not the end all. It doesn't have to be that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can be at Hobart. You can be at Albright. You can be at Ithaca. You can be at Cortland. You can be at Lemoyne. You can be at Syracuse, right?
Yeah.
I have plenty of friends that were in major Division I that said, I want to go down to Division III and I want to be an administrator there. So, and there's thousands and thousands of jobs that students and prospective students have to understand. And now with NIL, like, and then corporate sponsorship, and that's going to increase because we're looking about putting patches on jerseys and sponsors, and then facilities. And if you're at the Division III level, you better have the most state-of-the-art facilities to make that attraction.
Right.
And if you're Division IIs, you know, when Lemoyne was Division II, now they're Division I. Everybody's got to keep up.
Right.
And I wish I would have known that the scope wasn't just Alabama, Florida State, Penn State, Syracuse, Georgia. Right.
I think, and that's what students see, like, oh, the big bright lights, and they don't realize there's so many more opportunities.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
That's good. That's good.
Dave, it was awesome having you. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we'll continue to enjoy hearing all the things that you're doing with NIL and the rest of the things at Syracuse. And Just
Dave,
thank you.
This was great. You know, I have to give that shout out to Dave. He was the one that got me started, gave me my first internship with ISP Sports. When he said that, I was like, oh, little tear.
Yeah. Little tear. Listen, I don't shy away. Facts are facts. Jen did a great job with us and, catapulted her career. And then, now let's go win some national titles in every sport at Q. So
let's do it. But thank you, Dave, for everything always, and appreciate all of your support and for doing this. This means a lot. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please make sure to tune in to our next episode coming out next week. Jen, throw out the socials.
Yes, make sure you follow us on all your favorite socials on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all at Ath Career Pod. So to get all the up-to-date stuff on what we have going on. So this has been great. Such a fun time. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to subscribe and follow us too, guys. And we will see you next week. And see you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.